looking at your resume of who you've played with is just unbelievable. Is there anyone that you haven't played with that you'd like to?
Well, George Benson and I have been talking about playing together for a long time, and that's another dream of mine, you know. George and I have met up a couple of times, and we know each other a little, but we haven't had a chance to play much, you know. So he's one. You know, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai are two of my dear friends. We'd love to work together sometime too.
G3?
Wouldn't that be wonderful? We used to tease Steve about that. Joe would call him and say, we're going to go acoustic, and Tommy's joining us. And Steve would be like, no way!
Yeah, I can imagine that.
He's amazing, though. Those guys are just amazing. They really are. God, there's so much talent out there. There really is. Yeah. But, you know, the funny thing is that when I'm around Steve and Joe, I forget that they're my age. You know, I think they're like 20 years younger than me, but they're not. We're all the same age, in our mid-50s, you know. They're just wonderful family guys, really, underneath all that. They're just happy family guys. You know, I rang Joe one morning. I said, hey, Joe, did I call you at a bad time? And he said, no, I'm just going to shave. I said, what, your face or your head? He says, both. But they're really great guys, and they've always been really encouraging to me. You know, and I just feel like when I'm my playing, I feel like I'm such a beginner compared to them, you know. But they make me feel very, very comfortable, you know.
I wonder what's in your record collection. What do you listen to?
I don't have a lot of guitar playing kind of records because I'm not that interested in trying to steal licks from other players. I'm more interested in songs and songwriters. I listen to everything from Chopin's Nocturnes to Django Reinhardt, you know, and I listen to whatever Joe's doing. I listen to Joe. I think probably the music that I've listened to the most in the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say James Taylor, you know, and Bonnie Raitt. Right. And I just about wore out the James Taylor, Carole King live in concert DVD, just to hear the quality of their songs and, you know, that music. It's timeless music, you know. And a guy like James Taylor is such an inspiration to me because there's a classic example of someone who's never faltered from their path. You can listen to him from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s, from what he's done last year. It's all quality. It's all about the integrity of your and the quality of your music. And that guy is a great example of that, you know. Yeah. It's another reason why I never get concerned if I'm not writing anything, you know. I don't start getting antsy or worry. I've got to keep writing, you know, because you can't force it. It has to come with real inspiration. And a songwriter, especially like me, waits patiently for something to happen. And when something happens, I'm like a dog on a bone. Boom, you know. And I'm sure James Taylor does the same thing. His work is so inspired, you know. And so when I'm doing workshops and stuff like that, and I always tell people, you can listen to other guitar players. That's fine, but what we need to learn is good songs. We need to have good songs to play, and I always point people to listen to the people whose music moves the world. People like Eric Clapton, Elton John, Billy Joel, Stevie Wonder. Those people who have written songs that have touched the world, that have touched generations, and continues to do that. And I always point people to Elton John's Songs from the West Coast album as a true masterpiece of songwriting, arrangement, production, everything. Listen to that, you know, get and find out why does that melody sound good against that chord.
Well, his chord progressions are astonishing, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're in the jazz realm.
It's everything. It's just beautiful music, and it really is. And you know, I just try to give young people ideas. You know, don't get caught in a rut, because everybody gets in a rut because we're in the human race. Humans get in ruts, and you've got to try to find a way of getting yourself out of that. And so don't be afraid to listen to all kinds of things. You know. Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine, Ian Hildebrand, had some lessons with you back in the 70s.
Remember Ian?
Yeah. And I said, "What Tommy teach you?" And he said, he just sort of took me through the real book, some tunes in the real book.
Yeah. Songs, learning songs. That's how I learned to play the guitar, learning songs, you know. And because, you know, if you want to play something for your grandmother, she doesn't want to hear you playing in an Egyptian mode. She'd like to hear a song, please, you know. Yeah. And so learning songs is the key. And the more songs you learn in more keys, the more you're going to learn about the instrument. It's pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know.
Well, Pee Wee Clark's son, Mac, he gave me your first album, I think it was, with Out of Nowhere. Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, you don't want to talk about it?
Oh no, no, sure. Well, that was a labour of love. I really enjoyed it. I just didn't feel I played very well on it. But anyway, that's the way it goes. You'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But
it was your first outing, huh? Under your own name?
As a project that I was in charge of and had my name on, you know. Yeah. It was recorded direct to disc, which meant that when we worked out all the arrangements of the songs, and we had to rehearse instruments changes between songs, because when you make a direct-to-disc recording, the needle goes down on the acetate and it doesn't finish until the end, right? So you can't stop, right? So when you finish the song, they slowly bring the master fader down, you change guitars, you get ready, and within 10 seconds, and then, okay, ready, and then 1, 2, 3, fader up and into the next song. That's how much pressure was on us to do that. And we had a lot of technical issues with recording that album. Yeah. And, you know, people were pretty worn out by the end of the day. Yeah. But the best take of all was lost because the needle broke. But I wish that never happened, because it was the take of my life.
What was it?
Well, it was a side A. Okay. You know, you do side A and side B. Okay. Luckily for us, we did roll a master tape as well. Right. And so they were able to re-release it on CD from the master tape. Yeah. But the actual disc sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I have it on CD.
Yeah.
But
Mark Collins played banjo on that. He was 15.
Right.
And he plays the hell out of it. It's wonderful.
We sometimes think that we're less here in Australia than America or Europe, but, you know...
It's just more of them.
Yeah. but what your experience is, I mean, you played with the best people here. Yeah. They must rate highly against wherever.
They do. Well, you're talking about singers like John Farnham.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the best singers ever in history, I think.
Yes.
People like Rick Price, what a voice. You know,
and you played with him?
Yeah, many times. Yeah. Rick's living in my house in America right now, and songwriting and recording. But I've been so fortunate all my life. I've worked with such wonderful singers, and I love working with a singer. I love being an accompanist, you know. And they all have their quirky ways. They all have their little things that they like or they don't like. But the thing is that when you're working with a person who is as good as John Farnham, it just gives you the chills when you're standing up there playing and they're standing there singing. It's like, could life get better than this, you know? Yeah. I remember back in the 70s when John was trying to kind of kickstart his career again, because he's had several careers. The guy is incredible. And we put a band together, and Glenn Wheatley took over the project, and we did an album which Graham Goebel produced. That was such a pleasure to do, you know. And then we started out touring with the band, and nobody was interested in hearing John Farnham with the band, you know, as good as he was and as good as the band was. And I remember him, you know, putting his fist through a wardrobe in a back of a gig once, and I just said to him, "Don't worry, singer, your turn's coming. It's just round the corner." And sure enough, it was, you know, because he was so passionate about everything, you know.
And songs from Todd Hunter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I remember that we were when I was in Dragon. We were opening for Tina Turner on her world tour, and we were in Amsterdam. We did the show, and then we had 3 days off, and Toddy had all his equipment brought into the room next door. We were staying in the same hotel, and all day and all night I'm hearing dun 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 dun. Dun. He was writing Age of Reason in the next room. And I remember that because I remember that faint dun 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 coming through the wall, you know, as he's composing. And then we got back to Australia, and I think it was like a year later, it was the biggest record that you ever heard in this country. Yeah. And that's the one you wrote in Amsterdam, you know. Yeah.
Well, you know, you say you practice a lot, and obviously you do practice a lot. What do you practice?
I don't have any set kind of regiment sort of thing. There are days when I feel like just practicing strength and endurance,
Yes.
to play for a long time and all that kind of stuff. There are days when I'm always trying to write something, but unless it's something that really inspires me, then I just let it go. Sometimes I just practice songs, and there are days when I just practice improvising as well. I just start playing blues stuff and move up in semitones and just keep going and just keep trying to get my juices going, and I scat when I'm doing that to try to get better ideas and not let my hands dictate. I try to get all that going. And but my favourite thing to do is jam with other players. That's where the fun is, and taking solos and jamming and looking for harmonies and all that kind of stuff, and doing questions and answers, trade-offs and stuff. Yeah. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, I love being around people who are better. Like when I tour in America and Frank Vignola's opening for me, that he's so good that when we sit and play, it's like he just edges me right out the edge, and it's wonderful. That's how you learn. If you want to get good at something, go be around people who are better than you and try to help you lift your game.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy, I'm conscious of your time.
Yeah.
Look,
well, I work with a metronome,
You're just such an inspiration to see, listen to, and be around. Can we expect to have you come and move back to Australia?
Oh, of course, absolutely. I don't know when. I'd have to tell you that every time I've come back home I always say home because it is home. And the other thing is that somebody said to me one day, when you're over overseas and that, do you miss Australia? And I said, well, how can I? It's in here, and I open my case and there's a bit of it there too, I open my guitar case and then I'm surrounded by Maitons, but I miss this.
Yeah.
I miss the beach and the quality of life here.
Yeah.
But I have so much to do, and I don't want to just take the easy road, I could easily sell everything up and just come back here and buy some little place up there and just have a lovely life living here,
With your feet up.
Yeah, but I'm not ready to do that. No. I'm still running around the stage like a wild thing, and I love that.
Yeah.
And nothing excites me more than seeing young people and seeing the potential in the younger generation who look to you and say, well, he's doing it, I'm going to do it too, and I was just like that. And that's an important thing, I can't let up just because I can. Yeah. I could never do that,
Yeah.
Les Paul was one of my greatest inspirations as a person who loved to play so much and who always stayed true to it. When he was like 90-year-old, we had a concert for him at Carnegie Hall in New York, and I changed the old saying that day. People used to say, "How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice." Right? I said, no. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Les asks you. So there we were for Les's 90th birthday, and on stage, he said to the audience, "If there is a heaven on earth, it must be standing up here playing this guitar." And I'll never forget this. I have this picture in my mind. I'm standing up on the drum riser beside the drummer, playing away, and I'm looking down at the silhouette of this 90-year-old man with the lights coming this, so he's like just a silhouette. And you can see him going, and he's almost spitting as he's playing. He's so into it, 90 years old, And I'll never forget that scene as long as I live, I thought, man, oh man, if he can do it, I can, And you got to remember, here's a guy who was riddled with arthritis. Yeah. His body was riddled. His hands looked so bad towards the end of his life. And he even, because of the way he wanted to sit, he couldn't do it anymore. He had the surgeon break the thumb and reset it at the wrong angle so he could hold the guitar like that and still tap his foot and play,
Yeah.
Just what a person to be around,
Yeah. Oh, and it's not just about music, but music does something to you. I wonder what it is.
Oh.
Like to talk to you. This is an event, and I'm sure anyone that watches this will, they'll take a lot out of talking to you.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I always hope that I will say something. It may even be one sentence that will affect somebody's life in a really good way. Like a young lady who was singing for me, he asked me to write something on a piece of paper, and I just wrote, "Life is not a rehearsal. This is the gig. This is not a rehearsal. So you better get on with it." And I wrote that, and it really did have an impact on her. She's found the courage to step out of the place that she was and to believe in her gift of being a singer. And people have done that kind of thing for me, and I'll never forget that. Like one night at the basement, we played a hell of a show that night. Jim Kelly was playing in my band, and we were just really going for it. And Cole Joy came up to me and he said, "There's a lot of great players in the world, but all those people over there, they haven't got what you've got." And he just whispered it in my ear. And that's all he said. They haven't got what you've got, And I never forgot that, And I've always, whenever I've seen Cole, I've said, "I'll never forget what you said to me." And he said, "You just keep playing your banjo."
Did he know it was a guitar?
He's always funny. He used to call me to play on recordings, and he'd say, hello, Tom." He'd say, "Can you come over to my studio with your banjo?" He'd never say guitar, he'd always say your banjo. Yeah. What a character. What an incredible character he is.
Yeah. Well, look, I just hope you keep, inspiring people, because you are. And, just keep recording. I
will. As long as I can.
This has been an honour for me, Tom.
Me too,
and,
thanks. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cameraman.